The 26th of May then is a date that will bring back many great memories for all Arsenal fans. The date of the greatest match ever played in the English Football League. This is over and over and over again. Hello, my name is Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again. In this video, I'm going to look back on this day in 1989, of course, the 26th of May, probably the most famous day in English football history, the most famous match, certainly, of course, where we went to Anfield and won 2-0 in the last minute to win the league and deny Liverpool the double, our first league title in 18 years. A fantastic achievement that was, a fantastic night it was to be an Arsenal fan, and we're just going to relive it in this video. And before I get into all that, I just want to make sure that you are subscribing to my channel. If you do enjoy what I do and you like some different Arsenal content with a positive vibe, I do focus on the Arsenal history as I'm doing today, also the Arsenal women as well, plus all the latest news and match reports as well. Please click on the subscribe button down in the corner there. It is completely free of charge. It does help the channel reach a larger audience. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like as well. Please share the content around, and if you've got any comments at all to make about this particular night in 1989 or anything else to do with Arsenal, please drop them in the box below, as it is always nice to hear from you guys. Now, I started supporting Arsenal as a 9-year-old in 1978. I'd first gone to Highbury in 1981, and in all those years I'd never seen Arsenal come close to winning the league. I never thought it would be possible. Liverpool seemed to win it every year. They were such a good team. I used to look on at Liverpool fans at the end of every season when they were celebrating with the trophy, almost in envy, you know, wishing that my club could do that one day. And it was always a dream of mine to be able to one day witness Arsenal winning a league, but I never thought it would be possible. However, in 1986, George Graham was appointed Arsenal manager, and very quickly he instilled a new discipline into the side, using a lot of the young players that were already at the club, and he built a team that managed to win the 1987 Littlewoods Cup by beating Liverpool in the final, actually, and that was the first trophy I'd ever seen us win, and I didn't think things could get any better than that day at Wembley, but it didn't take long for even that to be overtaken. Now, during the summer of 1988, it was clear that George Graham had built a very, very good Arsenal side. It was based predominantly on a lot of the young players that had come through the youth system, such as Tony Adams in defence. In midfield there was Michael Thomas and David Rocastle, and of course up front there was Paul Merson. So it was a very young side, and George Graham had added to it with some hungry players from lower league clubs, such as Nigel Winterburn from Wimbledon, Steve Bold and Lee Dixon from Stoke, Brian Marwood had come from Sheffield Wednesday, and of course up front Alan Smith, who'd win the Golden Boot this year. He'd come from Leicester, of course, used to be Gary Lineker's strike partner. So it wasn't a team that stood out on paper as being able to challenge this great Liverpool side, but on the pitch what they had was a fantastic team spirit, a work rate and great enthusiasm, and also organisation. Of course, the run into that season hadn't gone particularly well. It looked as though we'd blown the league title. In the week before this game at Anfield, we had lost at home to Derby County. Very, very disappointing game that was. And then we could only draw at home to Wimbledon 3 or 4 days later. A late equaliser for Wimbledon there, a 2-2 draw. Looked as though it had cost us the league. Liverpool then beat West Ham 5-1 the night after, which meant that not only did we now have to go to Liverpool on this last game of the season and win, we had to win by at least 2 goals as well. You've got to bear in mind, Liverpool hadn't lost for 24 games, hadn't lost by 2 goals at Anfield for 3 years. This wasn't a task that anybody gave us any hope for. And even the Arsenal fans, I don't think really believed. We didn't really believe that we could do it. You hope, of course you do, for a miracle. But I think that, you know, we could be quite relaxed in a sense, because nobody expected us to do it. But this was a good thing about this team. What they had was a fantastic spirit. And George, for all his faults later on, he certainly knew how to get results in the big games when they mattered. And he somehow managed to pull this one out of the bag. Now, if you remember, May 1989 was a heat wave going on in the country, very unlike the weather that we're currently experiencing at the moment. It was a really hot day. It was a Friday evening. The reason why it had been delayed until the end of the season was because it actually had been originally due to be played the week after the Hillsborough disaster. Of course, football had been suspended at that time. So it was rearranged for the final game of the season. The only two teams that could win the league coming face-to-face, head-to-head in a dramatic shootout. Of course, as I say, Liverpool were in control of the situation. They just won the FA Cup, beating Everton, and I say we had to win by 2 goals. The traffic up on the motorway up the M62 was very, very busy, and in fact it looked as though no one was going to make the kickoff, but the authorities inside the ground and the police as well decided to delay the kickoff by 15 minutes, which helped some of the Arsenal fans get in, but not all of them. There were still many who didn't get in until nearly half time, but ultimately it wouldn't matter. So the Arsenal team that started this famous game, then, if you remember, George Graham had started experimenting with a 3 at the back system in the run into the season. He felt as though we needed to be a little bit more solid defensively, but also push the fullbacks further on. And both Lee Dixon and Nigel Winterburn did score a few goals in that title running as we changed the system. But for this game, I think everyone was expecting George to go back to a 4-4-2, but he didn't. He actually stuck with the 3-5-2 system that he'd used quite a lot, I say, in the final month or so of the season. So this was how we lined up for this game. It was John Lukic in goal. The back three, it was David O'Leary, Steve Bold and captain Tony Adams. Then in midfield, the 2 wing backs, it was Lee Dixon and Nigel Winterburn, both pushed high up the pitch. The 3 in the centre midfield, David Rocastle moved from the right-hand side where he'd played most of the season, slightly inside. And in the middle was Michael Thomas and Kevin Richardson. Of course, Kevin Richardson had come into the side early in the season when Paul Davis had been suspended, done so well that he had kept his place in the team. And of course, the front two were the front two that had been there all season. Alan Smith, of course, who would win the Golden Boot, as I said, and young Paul Merson as well, his first full season. Of course, he would win Young Player of the Year. So that was a team that started this game. A very good Arsenal team, very well organised, but surely it wasn't going to be able to win 2-0 against this Liverpool side. So the game itself then, I think all of us were kind of hoping for an early goal, but that wasn't the plan. George Graham had said in his pre-match speech to the team that he'd be quite happy if it was 0-0 at half time. We let Liverpool become anxious. I think maybe Liverpool played into their hands a little bit. They obviously only needed to avoid a 2-0 defeat, and I think that they were a little bit unsure whether to attack us and kill the game off or just to hang on for maybe a 0-0 draw and win the league that way. And I think because they were caught between two minds, it did make it slightly more easier for us to play out our tactics. Of course, we did nearly get an early goal, didn't we? A header from Steve Bold was actually going in, but it was headed off the line by Steve Nicol, I think it was. And it was 0-0 at half time. And I think we were starting to feel a little bit anxious, could we really score 2 goals in the second half against this Liverpool side? But we got the goal early in the second half, didn't we? There seemed to be a bit of controversy about it. I'm not quite sure why. David Rocastle won a free kick, and it was Nigel Winterburn who delivered it from the right-hand side. Alan Smith came in about the 6-yard line and glanced a header beyond Bruce Grobbelaar. Of course, the Liverpool players were surrounding the referee. I don't know whether they were saying that Alan Smith hadn't actually touched the ball. Of course, it was an indirect free kick. That there was a mud mark on his head where clearly the ball had hit it. So it was obvious that he had touched the ball. And you could see in the replays later that the ball had moved direction very slightly into the net. So I don't know quite what Liverpool were complaining about, but this was Anfield, and quite often when Liverpool complained about anything against them at Anfield, it tended to go in their favour. But the referee spoke to the linesman, and after a delay that felt like about 10 minutes, the referee did confirm the goal, and suddenly it's game on with about 40 minutes still to play. The tension really ramped up after that. Liverpool again were unsure really on what to do. If they attacked too much, it would have left them vulnerable to the counter-attack, and of course they knew that even a 1-0 defeat would still have given them the league title. Then with about 15 minutes to go, we had a great chance, didn't we, to get that second goal. Michael Thomas had a clear chance inside the penalty area, but didn't really get hold of the shot at all. He rushed it and it went straight into the arms of Grobbelaar. And I've got to be honest, at that point I thought that was it. I didn't think we'd get another clear opportunity like that to score the second goal in this game. But of course, Michael Thomas would redeem himself spectacularly about 15 minutes later, wouldn't he? Just before the goal, of course, Kevin Richardson had gone down with an injury, a cramp. He'd had a magnificent game, Kevin Richardson. I have to say, for me, he was probably man of the match on this particular occasion. He seemed to cover every single blade of grass. Absolutely fantastic performance from him. And he went down with what looked like a cramp. We were getting down towards the final minute. That was, of course, when Steve McMahon did his famous 1 minute sign to the Liverpool players and the fans to remind everyone there was only a minute to go and they would be double champions. Kevin Richardson then got up, and actually his next involvement in the game was actually to tackle John Barnes. Now, looking back on this game, I've always felt the same, and it's mentioned in the 1989 film, of course, where John Barnes gets the ball, and I don't know why he didn't decide to go over to the corner flag as anybody would these days and see down the last few seconds of the game, but instead he tried to get a goal. He ran into the penalty area. It was Kevin Richardson who was there to tackle him and knock the ball back to John Lukic. Of course, in them days, goalkeepers could handle back passes, pick the ball up, which he did. Now, everybody was screaming for John Lukic to boot the ball long up the pitch to try to get it into the Liverpool penalty area, but instead he threw it short to Lee Dixon on the right-hand side. Lee Dixon says himself, didn't he, that he didn't really want the ball there, but in the end he turned out he played a fantastic ball up the line to Alan Smith. Alan Smith done what Alan Smith always did, which was hold the ball up really well. He flicked it into the path of Michael Thomas, and this is where time stood still. Obviously, it was now or never, wasn't it? The ball broke through to Thomas. He got a lucky deflection, actually. I think, again, it was off Steve Nicol, wasn't it? And he ran towards the penalty area, and it seemed as though time stopped as he bared down on goal. Everybody was almost willing him to shoot, but Michael Thomas, being Michael Thomas, took his time. He waited for Bruce Grobbelaar to commit himself and then gently knocked the ball over him into the other corner of the net. And for a few seconds, it was difficult to believe that we'd actually scored the second goal in the last minute of the game. Bedlam ensued. The celebrations on the pitch were fantastic. But then suddenly you're realising that actually there is still a little bit of time left. And of course, a goal from Liverpool would have denied us a title. But we managed to hold on, and the ball ended up in the corner of the pitch and the final whistle went, and the realisation suddenly sunk in that, yes, finally, after 11 years, I'd seen Arsenal win the league. Of course, at the time, you would have imagined that this team could go on and dominate English football for many years to come. It was a very, very young team. And we did, of course, win the league again 2 years later. But that team was broken up far too quickly. And very soon we turned into a cup side. And of course, it was Manchester United who instead went on to dominate the Premier League when it started 3 years later. So a little bit of a missed opportunity there for Arsenal. But ultimately, at that time, it didn't matter. We'd reached the holy grail. Not only had we won the league, we'd done it away at the team that were at the pinnacle of their powers at that time, the team that everybody looked up to and everybody admired, and they were the team to beat. And not only had we done it to win the Littlewoods Cup final 2 years earlier, we'd now actually done it in their own stadium to win the league title. Amazing feat for that team and for George Graham, and it's a memory that no Arsenal fan will ever forget. To see Arsenal win the league anyway would have been fantastic, but to do it in that manner away at the home of the champions was something that will never ever be equalled again, not in this way. And I believe this was the most famous game ever played in English football. When you think there's been a book about it, a film, there's the 89 DVD, it's still talked about now, as indeed I am in this video, and it is, I say, the most famous game ever. And Sky and everybody else can try to say that the Man City QPR game was the greatest finish to a league season. It wasn't. This was. It always will be. Nothing ever will match the 26th of May 1989. So that's my little look back there on this day in 1989. I turned 21 the month after this game. It was a great time, and obviously to see Arsenal win the league. I was at the parade as well on the Sunday, another baking hot day, masses of people there. It was a fantastic experience to see the team on the bus, open top bus, with the league trophy, something I never ever thought I would see. And I say the fact that we then went on to do it again 2 years later, these were great times to be an Arsenal fan after all those years of waiting, all those years of suffering some rather poor football. In the end, it was worth it. And thanks to George Graham, of course, and also thanks to, of course, to Michael Thomas and all the other guys that night. The team, as I said, a fantastic team, fantastic players, a fantastic spirit. And it just makes you realise what we're missing these days, doesn't it? And this is why I think it's really important that we do, look back on these days and remember them, and remember the great history that that this club's got, and this particular day is the greatest day of all. So obviously I couldn't let the 26th of May go without doing a video on this particular game. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like. If you do enjoy the content that I do, please subscribe to the channel as well. Click the button down in the corner there. It is free of charge. It does help the channel reach a larger audience. Obviously the season's now finished, but I will be doing a lot more stuff like this through the summer. I'll also be profiling some players as well that have played for the club over the years. Maybe some players that perhaps people don't know too much about, and also some of the famous ones that we all love as well. So loads coming up on the channel through the summer. I will be doing some coverage of the Euros as well, of course, which is starting very soon. So loads coming up on the channel. So I say please subscribe, please like this video if you enjoy it. Please drop your comments in the box as well. What do you remember about 1989? Were you there? Do you remember much about it, or were you maybe not born and you've just seen videos and stuff about it? Please let me know your thoughts below. Great to hear from you guys as well. I say stay tuned to the channel. Thanks a lot for your support this season. Of course, in the meantime, remembering this golden day in Arsenal's history and that fantastic yellow kit there in the picture. Come on, you Gunners!